tiny friends. Welcome back to Tiny Keyhole Minis. I'm Jolene, and today I'm going to be working on the hallway in the Josephine house. I'm going to try and create a leak in the ceiling. So right now I'm just creating a fine hairline crack with my pencil and just getting to a point where I'm going to place the leak. I began this project and I was working on another project at the same time, and then I got sick. So I was in bed for like 4 days and I'm starting to feel a lot better. So I came back to work to finish this off. So right now I'm just going to put a couple globs of tacky glue down, and while I was in bed, I came up with this idea that might actually work. So I'm just going to spread this out a little bit with a toothpick, and I'm going to leave one side thicker than the other side, and the other side I'm going to bring down really super thin. I'm going to do a few of these patches. I'm trying to create that bubbled paint look on the ceiling from water damage, and I thought this glue might actually work. So I'm going to give it a try. We'll see if it works. I'm also using the wax side of freezer paper, but wax paper will work. Elmer's glue would work, any white PVA glue. So I'm going to let this dry completely and then come back to it. Right now it's dried, and I'm just going to peel it right off. It just peels right off. And you can see that one side's a little bit thicker than the other. That's going to create that bubbled paint look. So I'm just going to choose one of these. I have a few different ones, but now that they're all dried, I'm just painting them with white acrylic paint to match the ceiling. And here my pieces are all dried. I'm going to show you what they look like. I did a few different ones. And then I'll just pick the one that I like. I'll save the rest for future uses around the house. This one actually has cracks in the paint, so I'm leaning more towards that one. I'm not sure if you could see that one, but this was the first one I did. It was a practice run, so I kind of dulled down that white a little. And then this one is just the leftover paint that dried, but it's a lot thicker and it's a little more harder as far as flexibility, so it's easier to break. Okay, so now I have to figure out how to create the leak with one of these pieces. I decided to poke a hole in one of the pieces, so I just picked a spot in one of the pieces, and I'm just using, I first used my craft knife to cut a little hole, and now I'm just using my poker tool from the Dollar Tree just to push a hole in. It's kind of plastic-like or rubber-like, so it takes a little bit to get this hole to actually stay put and stop shrinking on me. I think this will be good. I'm almost there. I'm just going to give it another poke through, try and stretch this hole a little bit more. And now I'm going to add some resin. And my first thoughts were to add it to the inside so that it looks like it's seeping through the hole. But the resin was so thick that it was giving me a hard time. So I did start on the inside, and now I'm curing it, and I just use a toothpick to try and push the resin through the hole. So this is what it looks like, but I'm going to go ahead and add a drop to the outside so that it looks like the drip is actually dripping through the drip. It'll just give it more of a 3D effect and make it look more realistic. I'm using this flashlight, this UV flashlight that I purchased off of Temu, and this is the first time I'm using it. I don't think I paid more than $3 for this. I'm pretty sure I paid like $1 for it, and I wasn't quite sure how well it was going to work because I only paid a very little bit of money. And, sometimes it's that kind of experience where you get what you pay for. But this actually works very well. So this is what it looks like. It kind of looks like a clear chicken pox or a blister of some sorts. But I think it's going to work. Okay, so I've added some glue on the back side, and I actually added a little bit of water to the glue just to thin it out just a little bit so that it would be easier to spread out. And because this piece is so thin overall, I was trying to be a little more careful with it. And now I'm just going to place it down on the ceiling. So this is the ceiling, and right now I'm working kind of upside down. So it's a little bit difficult trying to uh, work on this ceiling, whether I was recording or not, because of the way the rooms are set up. I don't have much space to actually get up under. So it was a little difficult because I kept getting dizzy, but I got it done. And now I'm going to go in and do some aging. I'm using a watered down cotton swab with a little bit of deep ochre and a hint of brown acrylic paint. So I'm just going to start slowly by dabbing this on in small sections, and I'll go back in and remove the excess so it's not too dark. And I'm just going to continue all the way around and do layers as I go around. I'm also going to just spread it right over the white just to dull the white down a little bit so it's not so bright. Now this section right here, I didn't really glue this down too much because I wanted it to look like the paint was peeling. There's a little hole here, and I'm just opening that up, and I'm going to go in with a precision cotton swab, and I'm using brown, and I'm just getting in there with some of the brown. I'm going to layer it, so just a couple rounds of this brown. And then I'm going back in with a Q-tip to dab it down. It closes up just a little more. So I just keep playing with this until it's where I like it. I'm going to add some over here. There was already some yellow staining over here, so I'm just adding to that. Now I'm going in with some brown, just to add a little variation, a little more dimension. There's a leak in the ceiling, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a leak in the ceiling, dear Liza, a leak. Now it's time to create something to catch this leak. Okay, I believe we have some severe damage here, tiny friends. That looks really bad. Okay, so I am trying to decide which one I want to use. I have this bowl and the stock pot. They're both enamelware, but I believe I'm going to go with the pot. I also have a few remnants of this. I believe this is like a disposable cleaning rag. I found it and it doesn't have an odor. It's perfectly dry. And I thought, I don't have to do anything to this, so I'm definitely going to use this. So I picked a couple pieces and I'm just going to hang a piece over the side of the pot just to make it look like Miss Margot was trying to clean up the water on the floor. And I'm also going to use the other piece to just kind of set it on the floor. So it looks something like that. But before I even do anything, I need to age this pot. Now, I collect enamelware myself, so I'm just going to mimic some of the age spots that I see on some of my pieces. And I'm using Waverly Chalk, and this is their ink. It's their black. And the reason why I'm using chalk paint is because this is a metal piece. Chalk paint sticks to everything, so it's going to stick really well and grip instantly on this little metal pot. Not only that, it has a matte finish when it dries, and it also has like a textured feeling because it's chalk paint and it's extra thick. So when your enamelware starts to chip away or age, the paint starts to chip off and wear away, you can see that the metal is black underneath it. And that's what I'm going for. And I'm just doing random spots, a few here, a few there. And also, these aged spots tend to take on their own shape. So I'm just dabbing the paint on just to create random shapes. The chalk paint also dries super quickly. So now I'm going to add some rust. And I found this great color combination that creates a rust color using orange and light blue. Now, I tried it with a very light blue and I didn't like the results, so I'm going to go with this shade of blue. It's still a light blue, but it's really pretty. I'm using a very little bit of the blue. You're going to want more orange than the blue. And I'm just going to play with it and mix it until I'm happy with the color. It shows up very differently on camera than it does in real life. But you just want to keep adding the orange until you're happy. I'm also going to add a little bit of antique metallic copper because I'm hoping that that will give it a little bit of a metallic effect. I'm not really sure. This is my first time doing this, but I'm hoping. I think I could have added a little more of the metallic copper, but I'm using this tiny detail brush and I'm just adding the rust right around the edge of the black. And I'm not going to add a lot. I'm just kind of tapping the paint on with my brush. It leaves behind a little bit of texture. I'm also going right behind it while the paint is still wet with a cotton swab, and I'm just tapping it down over the rust. This kind of blends it in a little more, softens it up some. And I'm just using a precision cotton swab with water just to remove any excess. Okay, my age spots are done. There's still a few layers to this process because the pot still looks brand new, but I decided to go ahead and repeat this process around the handles. You don't have to really worry about being perfect when doing something like this because age and rust are perfectly imperfect. So you can just have fun with it and not have to worry about the stress of perfection. So all that is done, and now I'm going to dull down the white. I'm beginning with black acrylic and alcohol, and I'm just wiping this around inside, and then I'll go in behind it and pick up some of that excess with a cotton swab. And now I'm just going to repeat the process with a little bit of brown acrylic and alcohol just to give it a variation of color. I'm going to pick up most of that color with a cotton swab, and what's left behind looks kind of like staining rather than a dirty pot. I'm going to do the outside as well, but I'm going to show you the difference with acrylic and water first. So this is acrylic and water, and when you're using it on metal pieces, it doesn't really take a hold. It just settles on top. It doesn't really grip to the metal. So I'm going to wipe this off, and I'm going to repeat the process with acrylic and alcohol. And this is deep ochre. And I'm just going to dab it on and let it run around. There's a huge difference. So I'm just going to go in with the cotton swab and remove all of this excess. And then it just makes the color look like it's worn down or stained a little. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom using brown. And although you're not going to see the bottom in my scene, if I wanted to hang this up, you'd be able to see it. So I'm just showing you this if you choose to do something like this for your pot. Okay, so here is my pot. It's nice and aged. I'm not sure what kind of paint the blue is, but it did not stick on there very well because I was able to transfer that in different areas of the pot. But again, I just cleaned that up with a little bit of alcohol. Okay, so I want to add some water as if the pot is catching the water from the rusty pipes. So I'm adding a little bit of chalk pastel, and I actually added too much. And not only that, but I'm using a dirty paint cup. So there's a little bit of paint debris in there, but I won't add that to the pot. I'm not going to use all of this. I'm just going to use a very little bit, and I'm going to show you a trick. So I'm mixing it up really well. You can see the resin has like this rusty color to it. Okay, I'm just going to add a little bit of this right in the middle. I'm not going to cover the bottom completely. With the chalk pastels and the resin, a little bit goes a long way, and you can always add more for color. So you want to start off really lightly, not like me. So now I'm adding the clear resin right to the middle of that color, and you can see how it's spreading the color out to the sides, and that's how it would normally settle in water sitting there. The color and the dirt and the debris or whatever would normally just settle along the sides of whatever container it's in. So I don't want to move it too much, but now I'm going to add this little rag, and I've dipped the rag in a watered down glue solution and I wrung it out really good. And now I'm just going to place it in here and make some adjustments. I'm going to carefully push the rag in the resin with a toothpick, and I'm trying not to disturb how the resin is layered inside. So now I'm just going to cure it. And now we have some rusty pipe water in the pot. I'm just using a little bit of tacky glue to secure the rag in place. After making a few adjustments for the cleaning rag, I'll just set it aside to dry completely. Houston, I think we have a major problem here, and Miss Margot needs to attend to this issue immediately. I'm going to add some water spots on the floor, and there are two ways you can go about this. You can actually add the resin to a wax paper, spread it around, create your water spot, cure it on the paper, and then it peels right off. I did a couple spots. One came out cloudy, one came out crystal clear. So to avoid that, I'm just going to do it right on the floor. Now I've added a little bit of color to this resin. I don't think it's going to make a difference because of the color of the floor, but I just wanted to be on the safe side. I'm just going to take my toothpick and add just a little bit right around the pot. I'm going to cure it right there. It doesn't take very long. I'm just doing an extra amount of time just to be on the safe side. And I'm just going to adjust the pot just a little bit, just to turn it so that the water is actually touching the rag, and it kind of looks like maybe it's coming from the rag. I'm also going to do it over here to the mop and just make it look like maybe the mop was dripping from the cleanup. I'm adding a little bit of tiny spots here and there. And finally, I'm just going to put this little rag down right here on the floor and scrunch it up. Now it's wet from the water and glue solution, but when it dries, it'll just be stuck to the floor. last, I'll make some final adjustments to the mop before I call it a day. But tiny friends, that is it for today's project. I hope you enjoyed this. If you have, please don't forget to click that like button and give it a thumbs up, and let me know what you thought in the comments below. I want to thank you all for watching and joining in today. And if you're subscribing, don't forget to hit that top bell notification button to be notified every time I upload a new project. I would hate to see this ceiling start to collapse, so I hope Miss Margot can get this issue resolved before it exacerbates. When I come back to the hallway, we'll work on some fun details and accessories, including making a new phone for the gossip chair, and I'll show you how I created the rug. Okay, I'm pretty sure this problem just got worse right before our eyes. Until next time, tiny friends, you all have a lovely day, and I will see you all on the mini side.